Good morning, everybody. As y'all coming in, give me a second. I just got an idea that I have to write down. I don't trust my long-term memory, and neither should you. So let me write this idea down before I forget what it is. So here's the first lesson of the day. Do not trust your long-term memory to any idea. As soon as you get a good idea, or at least what you think might be a good idea, or the seed of a good idea, write it down so you don't have to trust yourself to remember it. Because if you forget it, then the idea disappears into the ether, and then somebody else is going to execute on your idea. You're like, damn, they stole my idea. All right, so that's the first lesson of the day. Not even the topic here today. And y'all see the topic. Topic is why you cannot sell. How many salespeople we got in the room? If you're a salesperson, please identify yourself. We got any salespeople in the room? Please identify yourself with a yes. Just put the word yes if you happen to be a salesperson who's listening to this right now. What we're going to talk about here today is why you cannot sell to save your life. I didn't put all that in there, but that is the topic. I got 13 reasons that I'm going to list here today. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through this. So I need all of you to listen and process quickly so that I don't have to speak slowly. Okay, so we got a lot to get to in a short period of time. The topic is why you cannot sell to save your life. I'm going to go through all 13 of these reasons. I'm going to tell you what the reason is. I'm going to tell you how this reason is. It says pin your goals so that other people can see it. I'm over here on TikTok looking at this and they keep giving me this, but I don't understand. I don't have a full grasp of exactly how this thing works. So we'll see if we can figure it out as we go. And let me see if I can see anything else. All right, this is still perplexing me a little bit what they have us doing over here on TikTok as far as from my end. I know what y'all can do as far as leaving the comments and stuff, but I can't see. Yeah, they're still leaving some gray areas in this that are not quite clear. But anyway, what we're going to talk about here today, as I already told you, is, let me see if I can pin this comment. And see, they keep telling me I can't pin the comment, even though they say there's a link that literally says pin this comment. Then when I try to pin it, they won't let me. Anyway, we're going to talk about the selling. I have other trainings where I talk about how to sell the right way. And I have a whole program called Sell Yourself inside of Work on Your Game University. And of course, we coach people directly on sales and how to sell yourself, how to have a sales conversation, how to bring the right people into your sales conversations, etc. All of that is covered inside our university, which is called Work on Your Game University. That's the place where we do all of our coaching. That's the place where you can work with me directly if you are so inclined and you're serious about taking your game to the next level. But we'll get into that later. So this is, again, when it comes to selling, I want to talk about selling yourself. I want to talk about selling products and selling services. These points that I'm going to list here today apply across the board, whether you're trying to sell yourself, whether you're selling a product or you're selling a service. So again, I got 13 points I'm going to share here today, and we're going to get right into it because, again, I told you we got a lot to get to in a short period of time. So for those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm former 9-year pro athlete, author of 35 books, on 4 TEDx talks. Create this brand called Work on Your Game. Our job here is to help you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce more results. If that sounds like what you are looking for, what you want, then congratulations, you are in the right place at the right time, and you are the right person to get this message that I'm going to share here today. So let's get right into it. And I'll answer all questions at the end. There may be a lot of questions or comments people have based on the things I'm going to share here today. But again, as I said, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I need you to process quickly. I need you to listen quickly so that I don't have to talk slower, so we can get through everything in a short period of time, which is the goal here. We want to condense time frames. So again, reasons why you cannot sell to save your life. I got 13 of these. Let's get into it with point number one. Number one, you don't know what you're offering. Now, what exactly does this mean? I mean, you know what you're offering. Let's say you're selling a car or you're selling a ticket to a basketball game, or you're selling a book, you know what you're offering, but you don't know it well enough to make it simple for others to understand. Thus, they don't buy it. Understand that a confused customer does not make a decision. A confused customer does not ask questions. A confused customer goes elsewhere to where they do know what they're getting and they do understand the offer, and then they move there. So if people don't understand what you're offering, then they will not buy. And if you are not good at explaining what you're offering and explaining it in such a way that the customer understands the value of it, they're not going to buy from you. So you have to be very clear. This is a communication skill. You have to be very clear, first of all, communicating with yourself what you're offering, and then very clear communicating to your audience or to your prospects what you are offering. And you must communicate it in such a way that they understand the value of the offer and how it reflects on them, not just how it reflects on you. This is one of the biggest challenges I noticed with a lot of salespeople is that you tend to talk about your offering in terms of what it means to you and why it matters to you and why it's valuable for you. But your customer doesn't care about that. What your customer cares about is, what is it going to do for me? Remember, the number one radio station everyone is always tuned into is WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. So you must always communicate with your audience as to what they will get from the thing that you're offering, not what you will get or why you care about it or how much time you put into making it or building it or creating it. People generally don't really care about that unless they're hooked into caring about your product or service. So the sentence you're going to fill in is very simple. I help blank do blank. That's the question. That's the sentence you have to fill out. That answers the question about what's in it for me when it comes to your customers. I help blank achieve blank. So you can swap out the word do, but it's some type of verb. I help blank do blank. So for example, I have a program called the Overseas Basketball Blueprint, which helps basketball players start their professional playing careers if they want to play basketball overseas. They think they're good enough. So I would fill in that sentence by saying, I help professional level basketball players start their professional basketball careers, even if they come from a small school or didn't play in school at all, or they don't have great stats or no background playing at the pro level. So I use the word start as the verb. So it's I help blank. You name the group that you're trying to help. And then there's a verb, which is the achievement. So you can say make more money. You can say start a career. You can say solve this problem. You can say cure themselves of a disease, whatever it is. That's the verb. And then you tell them exactly what you're going to help them do. Now, once that sentence gets their attention, now you can tell them more detail about who you are, what you do, etc. So anyone can use this frame for anything that you're selling. If you're working at Foot Locker, for example, you could say, I help sneaker shoppers find the perfect footwear. So someone who's out there shopping for sneakers, I help sneaker shoppers find the perfect sneakers to wear to that event or the picnic you're going to this weekend, or help you find the right shoes to match your outfit for the family reunion that's coming up next week. All right. If you're working at a gym, you can say, I help people live their healthiest life, or I help people who want to get in shape get a six pack. I help someone who's overweight get back to the weight that they were in high school. So again, you can fill in this framework that I just gave you. I help blank do blank to help people understand clearly who you're serving and how you serve them. If they don't know this, they will not buy. Moving on to point number 2. And I'll address questions and comments at the end, by the way. Point number 2. We are talking about why you can't sell to save your life. Number 2, you are selling to the wrong people and they are not your buyers, or you're selling to people who simply cannot buy or are not interested in buying. This is the reason why you're not making sales. You're selling to people who simply are not in the market to buy what you're selling. This is why the first point was the first point. Okay, so for all of us and the rest of us, maybe you can focus on your buyers and not your followers, because not everybody who follows you on social media is a buyer of your products or service. And a lot of people who use the internet to sell their stuff tend to not understand this, and it tends to hurt your sales. And I'm going to get to that even more as we get deeper into this. So what is that? Yoga Man Reed, appreciate you for helping me hit the goal here on the TikTok. And we're live in multiple places, by the way, for people to understand. I'm looking at different cameras. So maybe you do have the right thing to sell and you know exactly what it is, but you're simply offering it to people who are not interested in buying. So if you're again, the saying is selling sand to the beach or bringing sand to the beach. You don't want to try to sell sand at the beach because there's plenty of sand already there and you are simply a commodity. But if you are selling, let's say, cold bottled water in the desert, you're in the right place at the right time with the right customer, because people want something to drink, it's hot, and you have exactly what they want. Therefore, your prices can be a whole lot higher. You can charge people $10 for a bottle of water. Whereas if you were selling bottled water at the park where there's a water fountain right there and they can get water for free, you might only be able to sell that for $1, if you can even sell it at all. So it matters who you're selling to, where you're selling, and the context in which you're making the sale. All of these things matter when it comes to selling the thing that you want to sell. So again, sometimes selling to the wrong person doesn't mean that that person as a human being is the wrong customer. Maybe you're just selling to them at the wrong time. You understand? So for example, if you're a bail bondsman, trying to sell to someone who's not in a legal situation, or they're not, or nobody they know is locked up in jail right now, that's the wrong time to sell to that person. But as soon as they get arrested, or their best friend got arrested, or their child got arrested, or their spouse got arrested, and that spouse has been booked into the local jail, well, the bail bondsman is the perfect person to call at that moment. So again, the same person can be the right customer today and wrong customer tomorrow, depending on the context and depending on the situation. So your job as a salesperson is to understand in what situation, what scenario, what context does this person need my product or service. So using the example I just gave you, a bail bondsman, and if you drive past if there's a jail in your town, and almost every town has some type of jail or some type of facility, you shouldn't be too familiar with it. But in case you find it and you know where it is, when you drive around it, if you just drive around the perimeter of that place, you're going to notice there's a whole bunch of bail bondsmen's offices and storefronts all around that jail, because they understand that the only time anybody cares about us is when somebody's in that jail. And that's where they come around there and they see that, and you need to call that bail bondsman. Okay, so that's an example of the context. If you're selling bottled water, again, you want to go somewhere where there's not a whole lot of water available, i.e. you don't want to be selling your water right next to a water fountain, because people look at you, to look at the water fountain and say, well, I can get it for free. Why pay this guy? But if you go somewhere where there's no water fountain and it's hot outside, you probably want to sell bottled water somewhere that is hot, or maybe in the summertime, or maybe down here in Miami where it's hot all the time. You want to sell it in places like that. You don't want to be selling it, again, where you're going to have competitors that are going to drive down the value of what it is that you're offering. So again, the right thing at the wrong time means no sales. The right thing at the right time equals a sale, or the wrong thing at the right time equals no sale. So everybody understand this. So sometimes I'll give you an example. When I used to work at this gym called Bally Total Fitness, this is almost like 20 years ago, we would go through in our computers, we would have every lead, every person who ever came through the gym who was interested, but they didn't buy. We would call back those leads. And sometimes we would reach somebody who was interested now. They weren't interested 6 months ago. And oftentimes we would reach somebody and they would say, I'm not interested at all. They're just not interested in the gym. Maybe they, for whatever reason, they showed some interest a year ago, but they're not interested anymore. And you got to find those people, the right people at the right time. So this is one of the reasons why you have marketing, to continually let people know what you're offering, because they may not have been interested in January, but here we are, October. Now they have a need for what you're offering. But if you don't get back in front of them, they might go somewhere else rather than to you, because they just forgot that you existed and you didn't do your job of reminding them that you were available and in the game. So let me just make sure my streams are working the way it's supposed to. All right, great. Let's move on to point number 3. We're talking here today about, and again, I'm gonna answer all questions and comments at the end. Number 3, we're talking today about why you can't sell to save your life. Number 3, you're looking at the wrong statistics. You're measuring your work by the wrong media, and you're looking at the wrong data. So this is where you got to be careful these days. When you hear these days people talk about facts, hashtag facts. All right, facts are not the whole story. Many people tend to think that when they have a fact, that means that it's an open and shut case. This is not true. Or if you see that someone, you say that someone told a lie, meaning they said something that goes against the facts that you have access to, it's not that you're necessarily wrong, but facts alone are not the whole story. The whole story is what we call the truth. So be careful when you hear people talking about facts. In politics these days, you hear people talking about fact checking all the time. Well, see, the thing is, you can fact check anything. You can fact check anything, but the truth, you see, what they don't have is truth checking. Truth checking is what they actually should be doing, because the truth is the whole story. A fact is just a piece of the story. I can tell you a little fact about me that makes me look amazing. I can also, somebody else is trying to make me look bad, can tell you a fact about me that makes me look like a terrible person. And that applies to every person in this room. So the point being, when it comes to selling, many of you are looking at the wrong facts. It's not that your facts are inaccurate. It's just that fact is irrelevant. For example, if you are selling things and you use the internet as one of your sales vehicles, how many people are following you on TikTok is not relevant to how many sales you're going to make. Any of you who sells anything through TikTok, I'm looking at the TikTok camera right now, you probably know what I'm talking about. Why? Because just because someone's following you on TikTok does not mean they're going to buy anything. All right. The social media followers tend to be, I tell salespeople all this all the time, they tend to be freeloaders, meaning they will load up on all the free stuff that you offer. But when it comes time to buying things, only a small percentage of those people are going to become buyers. Just because they are followers and just because they're followers does not mean that they're buyers. Followers and buyers are not the same thing. And if you are a salesperson, you are in the business of transactions, meaning customers, clients. That means people who have given money to get what you're offering. And if someone is giving you their attention and they're leaving you comments and they're following you on social media, does not necessarily make them a customer. And if you want to prove this out, look at your customer list and then look at your social media followers list and ask yourself how many people are on both lists. You're going to find that is a very small percentage of the people who are looking at you and anywhere that you're offering things free. It's not that you don't value the people who are taking up what you're offering for free, because after all, I mean, you are offering it. It's not like they made you do it. So I appreciate all of you who are consuming the stuff that I put out at no charge. But at the same time, I understand what business I'm in. I'm in the business of making sales. I'm not in the business of gathering followers, comments, engagements, likes, subscribers, etc. That can be part of the business. And yes, doing this part of the business can lead to other parts of the business. There are people who are on my customer and client list these days. That means people who have given us money as a company who found us through one of these apps in which we offer a bunch of things for free. So this is the reason why I do it. I make no bones about this. I'm not doing this as a community service. I'm not some community activist. I am a businessman. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a business. I think most of you understand that. I do this because I'm looking for people who may be interested in taking another step. Maybe one of you is interested right now and you're ready to take that next step. You should go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Maybe some of you, maybe you're not ready to take that next step right now, but 30 days from now, you will be ready and you're going to remember me, or you're going to know about me because I'm going to be here in front of you. Maybe it's going to be a year from now, you're ready to take that next step. So the reason why we use social media as a business person, if you're using it, strategically, you're using it as a way to put your name, image, and likeness out there, to put your voice out there, to put your material out there so that you make yourself findable and discoverable by people who may be interested in what you're offering. That's the whole point of using social media, is to make yourself findable and discoverable. But social media is a means to the end. It is not the end within itself. Many business people incorrectly use social media as if it's the end. So they'll tell me how many followers they got or how many likes they got on a post. Well, that's not the point. I mean, it's cool if you get likes on a post. It's cool if you have a bunch of followers, but that's not the goal. Now, I don't post anything on social media because I'm looking for followers or likes or subscribers or what's the other thing, whatever other data they give you. We call them vanity metrics. Make sure you're paying attention to the right data. And when you're running a business, the data does make the decision, but you got to look at the right data, not just any data. And again, this is the difference between facts and the truth, because a fact can be, I got a million followers on such and such app. But the truth is, yeah, despite my million followers, I only got 10 sales this year or this month or whatever it is, based on what you're expecting. So again, be careful, be very careful when people are throwing around the word facts, because a fact can be taken out of context. And just because you have a fact does not mean you have the truth. And some facts are completely irrelevant when it comes to the goal. So all of you need to be clear on what is the goal. What is it that I'm trying to achieve here? When you're clear on what you're trying to achieve, then you decide which facts help me achieve the goal, not just any facts that maybe serve your ego. And again, social media does a great job of confusing people when it comes to this very point. So when you're a salesperson, you need to be looking at your customer list, not your comment section, if you get what I'm saying. Moving on to point number 4. Today's topic, once again, is why you are failing to sell, why you are not selling successfully. Number 4. Failure to communicate what you are offering. So this refers back to what we said in point number 1. When I say communicating what you're offering, what I mean by this is, what is the buyer going to get if they were to take the next step that you're offering? If you do this, then this is going to happen. You have to clearly communicate this to your prospects, to the people who you're selling to, and do not assume that they understand it. Do not assume people's intelligence. Do not assume that people are able to think for themselves, and do not overestimate, again, how much people understand, how much they know, and how much they're able to process. It is your job as a salesperson to clearly lay out with perfect clarity, here's what we're offering, here's what it's going to do for you, here's how to get it, here's what you do next. You got to tell people that. And if you leave steps out, again, people will end up being confused. And what did I tell you a confused prospect does? Confused prospect does not ask you 30 questions to get clarity. A confused prospect just moves on and goes somewhere in which they don't need to ask any questions, because everything is clearly laid out for them. So again, Do not overestimate the intelligence of your audience. That doesn't mean everybody in your audience is dumb, but it also doesn't mean everybody in your audience is smart. And it also doesn't mean that somebody could be really dumb or really smart. Many people simply don't want to take the time to think and figure things out. They came to you because they expect you to have done all the thinking, have already figured everything out, and make it easy for them. That's the reason why they're willing to give you money. The reason why people buy stuff is not so that they have to do more work. People buy stuff because they want whatever they're buying to make their job easier, not harder. Therefore, when you are selling, your job is to make it so easy for them to understand what they're going to get and understand how getting it is going to help them get whatever they're trying to do done faster, easier, more effectively, and more efficiently. That is your job as a salesperson. So again, as a bail bondsman, my job, if I'm a bail bondsman, my job is to help you understand that I'll help get your son out of jail within the next 3 hours. All you got to do is pay me this money and go to this link right there. I want to make it simple and easy. And if it doesn't seem simple and easy, what I'm going to help you do, then you're going to hang up and you're going to call the next bail bondsman. That's the whole point. So if you hire even when it's work, by the way, this applies as well. So let's say I'm a personal trainer and you want to lose 50 pounds. Now you understand that losing 50 pounds is not going to be easy. You're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to do some push-ups. You're going to have to run on the treadmill every now and then. You understand that. But at the same time, you understand that if you do it on your own, it might take you 2 years if you get there. But if you do it with me, then it's only going to take 6 months. So even though it's going to be work either way, I'm going to help you do it more efficiently. So we're still going to do work, but your work is going to be more efficient. Your job as a salesperson is to communicate how buying your thing, product, service, experience, whatever it is going to make it easier or better or faster or stronger or more enjoyable than any alternative option that they have, including doing nothing and trying to do it on their own. That's your job as a salesperson. And if you fail to communicate that, that might be the reason why people are not buying your product. There's nothing wrong with the product. You don't have the wrong audience. You are just failing to communicate. And sales, folks, is mostly the skill of communication. Marketing, even better stated, is the communication. And by the way, marketing creates sales opportunities. The better your marketing is, the more opportunities you'll have to sell to the right people. So really, this is a marketing point that I'm making here, but marketing and sales work together. When your marketing is dialed in, then your selling becomes a whole lot easier. If you feel like your sales are a grind, then what you need to look at is your marketing, because either your marketing is not making things clear enough for people, it's not doing enough of the lifting for you up front, and or it is drawing in too many of the wrong people. Therefore, it's a struggle for you to make sales because it's selling to people who you shouldn't be talking to in the first place, but your marketing is drawing these people in for some reason. So you got to get all of this stuff dialed in. So your job is to build the bridge. Basically, what does this product do for you? All right, here's my product. You get it, is going to do this. All right, that's the bridge. The bridge is you get my product, this is going to happen. All right, you hire me as a personal trainer. I'm going to help you lose weight much faster than if you did it all by yourself. If you buy this makeup, you're going to be more attractive to your spouse, whatever it is. All right, if you follow my Bulletproof Mindset program and Work on Your Game University, you're going to be more disciplined, more confident, you're going to be more mentally tough, and you're going to be more activated to take action every single day without sitting around and waiting for something to happen. Your job is to build that bridge. You buy this car, you're going to be an ultimate driving machine, and you're going to be really safe, or you can take all your kids to the soccer game safely, and we got airbags everywhere. All right, so your job is to let them know, all right, how does my product or service make their situation better? And if you can't clearly communicate that, again, nothing wrong with your product, nothing wrong with your audience, just a failure in communication, which is your responsibility. Number 5. We're talking here today about why you are unable to make sales regardless of how hard you try. And appreciate you, Young Man Reed. Thank you for those lightning bolts. Again, number 5, you are too timid in talking up your product, service, offer, or even yourself. Timid salespeople have skinny kids. That's a quote from a guy named Zig Ziglar. Some of you may be familiar with him. He's an old motivational speaker / salesman. He started out as a salesman. He kind of reinvented himself as a motivational speaker later on in his career. But he has a program called Secrets of Closing the Sale, and you can get that for free. You can find it on whatever app you're watching me on right now. Not all of them. Go on YouTube or your audio streaming like Spotify or Apple Music and just look that up. It's called Secrets of Closing the Sale. It's like 12 hours long. I suggest any of you who's in sales, you should go through that audio. It's like an audio program or a book, however you want to call it. I have that in, I think I got the written format and I got the audio book. But all of you should go find that. And Zig Ziglar is the guy who said it. Anyway, the point here is number 5. Sometimes the biggest hindrance you have right now is that you're just too timid. You're not talking yourself up enough. Therefore, people don't believe you, or they don't know that you exist. Therefore, they can't buy. All right. Understand that when people give you money, they are basically believing in you / your product / your service to help them achieve a goal that they otherwise would not be able to achieve, at least not as effectively if they did it without you or with any alternative. Therefore, they expect you to have the confidence that, yes, you need to do this with me because ABC. And it's your job to communicate that. And if you don't clearly communicate that, then people aren't going to buy because they simply don't believe you. All right. They have to believe you. And how you get people to believe you is that you have to show them that you believe yourself. If you don't believe you, nobody else is going to believe you. So any of you who's ever taken a sales course, a sales lesson, a class on sales, or read a book on sales, you should have heard or read somewhere in that program that the most important sale that you make is the sale that you make to yourself. The first and most important sale any of you makes on a daily basis is the sale you make to yourself when you wake up in the morning and you go in the bathroom and you look in the mirror. I've never been to the bathroom and didn't have a mirror. They all got mirrors, right? And you look in the mirror, the most important sale is that sale you make to the person you're looking at. If you are not sold on you, then you will not be able to sell anybody else on you. That is the most important sale. And remember, most communication between human beings is nonverbal communication. So it's not the words that you say. We all tend to focus on the words, and words matter. Let me be clear. At the same time, however, it's all the stuff that we're not saying that is making the biggest impression when it comes to communication. I'm saying all that to say this: when you don't believe in yourself and what you're offering and who you are and what you bring to the table, people can read that energy off of you without you saying a word. And when on the flip side, when you do believe in yourself, people can read that off also. So are you sold on yourself? That's a question you should ask yourself every single day, because if you're not sold on yourself, that may be the main thing in the way of you making a sale to anybody else. So you can't be timid in talking yourself up. You can't be timid in believing in yourself. And also when it comes to your marketing, what are you willing to do or say to make yourself stand out? All right. If everybody seems the same, let's say you and there are 100 other people selling vacuum cleaners in town and you sound just like everybody else, well, you become a commodity. I don't think any of you wants to be in a commodity business unless you happen to be Amazon or Walmart, where you have economies of scale. You can sell a whole bunch of cheap stuff and just dominate the market simply because you're able to make more transactions than everybody else. You can drive all the competition out. I'm guessing most of you don't operate in that space. I'm guessing most of you are not trying to just low price people out of the game. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm guessing most of you are not, again, Walmart or Amazon. And I'll answer all questions and comments at the end, by the way. So you have to figure out what separates you from everybody else who's out there. What separates you from everybody else out there? You need to know what this is, and you must demonstrate what it is. For example, when I was in college playing on a basketball team, remember my junior year, we got a new basketball coach. So all these guys who were on campus before but never tried out for the team, all of a sudden now everybody wants to try out for the basketball team. There was about a whole bunch of people who were all pretty much the same. It's a bunch of advertised white guys who didn't really have any exceptional talent. What was going to separate any one of them from everybody else making the team? The answer was nothing. And the conclusion was none of them made the basketball team because none of them really had anything that separated them from anyone else. You need to figure out what separates you from everyone else, and you must emphasize that and let people know that it's a thing, because if you don't tell them, they will not figure it out. Again, do not overestimate the intelligence or the insight of your audience. You have to point things out to them. They otherwise will not notice them. So anybody could have made the team that junior year when I was in college, but the people who made the team are the people who showed what made them different from everybody else. And you need to do the same thing. What makes you different from your competition? Number 6, we're talking here today about why you cannot sell to save your life. Number 6, you sound just like everybody else. I just said this. I just touched on this. This is a way that you become a commodity. If your message sounds like everybody else's message, you're a commodity. For those of you who don't know what a commodity is, it just means a product that seems pretty similar to all the other products. So I just picked the one that's cheapest or most convenient, or the one that's in front of me. So if you go to the grocery store and I say, hey, get some ketchup, you'll go there and you'll just pick whatever ketchup maybe is cheapest, because you don't have a preference for any certain type of brand. You don't care what kind of ketchup it is. You just need some ketchup, period. Doesn't matter what it is. So it's like if you go to the store and you order a burger and fries and they say, you want some ketchup? You say, yeah, I want some ketchup. Sometimes they give you those little packets, right? Those little packets of ketchup. Do you look at that and say, well, I don't like this brand, I want that brand? Usually nobody says that, because the ketchup is a commodity. You don't want to be that. Right? Everybody understand? You don't want to be in that space. You don't want to be in a space where you're a commodity. So think of something like a gym, for example. I go to the gym and work out every day. I was talking to someone the other day, and he was telling me that he goes to this gym down here in South Florida that I know that gym probably costs at least $150 a month. Why? Because it's not a commodity. Gym I go to costs $200 a month, not a commodity. You go to a gym like Equinox, $150, $200 a month, not a commodity. Now, you want to go somewhere like Planet Fitness or UFit, how much are those gyms? Like $10 a month? Those gyms are commodities. And let me tell you, any of you who has not been to both gyms, I've been to already both the commodity gyms and the non-commodity gyms. There's a huge difference between these gyms. You might not think there is, but there is a difference. There's a reason why one gym costs $10 and another gym costs $150. One is the type of people that it attracts. When you're selling products for $10 a piece, you attract a certain clientele. And when you're selling your product, service, offer, whatever for $150 a month, you attract a different type of clientele. Again, this is the difference between if you go fly Delta Airlines and sit in first class versus you get on Spirit Airlines and sit in the back. You're dealing with two different types of people. All right. Can you understand what I'm saying here? There's a reason why the prices are different, even though many people will say, well, what's the difference? I mean, a gym is a gym. A 10-pound dumbbell in UFit for $10 a month and a 10-pound dumbbell in Equinox for $150 a month is still a 10-pound dumbbell. What's the difference? Now, I understand why you may think that. I used to think the same way until I experienced picking up a 10-pound dumbbell in Equinox compared to what happens at Planet Fitness. It's a completely different world. Why? Because of the people who are in there, the people in the room. That matters. We know the law of association, right? What does it say? You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. So if you're making $10 purchases because it's cheap and you're hanging around a whole bunch of other $10 people, well, what does that say about you? Whereas opposed to that, you spend $150 a month and you go hang around people who are willing to invest $150 a month in the quote unquote same thing. Well, who are you going to meet? Who are you going to run into? Which one gives you a better chance of meeting the person who can help elevate your situation in life? Are you more likely to have that happen at Planet Fitness for $10 a month, or is it going to happen in Equinox for $150 a month? Who are you going to meet in that yoga class? Who's going to be sitting in the sauna next to you? Who's going to be in the locker room changing clothes at the same time you're changing clothes? Who are you going to meet in Planet Fitness versus who you're going to meet in Equinox? That matters. Who are you going to meet sitting in the back of the plane on Spirit Airlines versus who you're going to meet sitting in first class on Delta? All right, does it matter? Hell yeah, it matters. All right, that's the reason why people pay for it. Because you may be saying to yourself, why would anybody pay $200 a month to go to Equinox when they could easily pay $10 a month to go to UFit? They can save $190. What's the difference? I just told you. That's the difference. Who are you going to run into when you're doing that? Now, what does any of this have to do with selling? Who are you selling to? Who do you want to sell to? Who do you want your customers to be? Who do you want your clients to be? Do you want $10 customers or do you want $1,000 customers? Now, after you answer that question, now go look at the stuff that you're selling and ask yourself, how much are you charging? How much are you asking for those products? Are you attracting $10 people or you're attracting $1,000 people based on what you are offering? Again, what are you offering? Who are you attracting? Somebody says, well, why get a plane on the plane and pay for a first class ticket for $700? I can get a coach ticket for $200. What's the difference? I just told you. Again, any ever been to Whole Foods? Any ever been to Walmart? Is there a difference in the people you run into in each store? Absolutely. Now, some of you may say, well, it doesn't matter. I don't care. It's the same thing either way. Okay, fine. Make whatever decision you want. All right, I'm just letting you know what your options are. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what your options are. And I'm telling you what's going to happen based on the decisions that you make. The law of association, we all know it. It's a law. It's not a theory. You become the average of the people you spend the most time around. So if you are looking to spend time around people who are lower level individuals, you know what your options are. And if you want to spend time around higher level individuals, first of all, you got to do what higher level people do. And that means you got to be willing to cut off the people who are not quite at that level. And this is not only with what you do as a consumer, but also what you do as a producer and as a salesperson. All right. So does this open you to criticism? Absolutely. People might say, well, why are your prices so high? You're going to get that. Do you possibly ruffle some feathers when you tell a $10 person, hey, I'm raising my price to $100. Either you pay $100 or you leave. Are people going to be bothered by that? Yes, they will be. Will you offend some people? Yes, you will. Are you willing to do that in order to get what you want? Again, I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm just asking you a question. You do what you want. You do whatever you want to do. Moving on to point number 7. We're talking here today about why you can't sell to save your life. Number 7, your offer does not fulfill a need. And again, this is relative. All right, I may not have a need for a bail bondsman today, but if my cousin goes to jail tomorrow, then I got a need for a bail bondsman. So the need is relative to the situation and the context in which you are selling. Not everybody needs something every single day, but they may need it at a certain time. Not everybody needs a personal trainer right now, but 3 months from now, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, you just had a heart attack. If you don't lose 30 pounds by the end of the year, you're going to die. Now, all of a sudden, they need a personal trainer. So situations change, and your job is, again, to make yourself findable to people when they are looking to solve a particular problem, which, again, they didn't have the problem last week, but they have the problem this week. Okay, so this is where social media is valuable, because social media allows you to make yourself findable for people who are looking for a solution. And usually these days, when someone has a problem, the first thing they do, unless they know someone who has a specific answer, like let's say I know somebody who's a doctor, but he lives in Tennessee, but I need a doctor down here in Florida. I might call that guy in Tennessee and say, well, who do you know in Florida who's a doctor who can help me? Because I would go to you, but you're in Tennessee. Or what should I look for when I'm looking for a doctor? They may give me a recommendation. Now, if I don't know anyone personally who can help me out, next thing I'm gonna do is go to the internet. That's usually the order of operations. First thing, I'm gonna go to somebody I know. Next thing, I'm gonna go to the internet. So, for example, my dad is a musician. He knows music really well. So if I want to learn music, I might call him first and see what he has to say. Now, if I didn't know him and he wasn't a musician, next thing I'm gonna do is go to maybe YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, see who they know. Same thing in like the speaking business, for example. I will do speaking business where I come as a recommendation. Somebody knows somebody and they say, oh, well, you need Dre for that. And they'll call me. That's great. Those are referral business, great business to be in. But then if, let's say, that person who ends up reaching out to me doesn't know somebody who knows me, they might have found me on the internet. They might have saw one of your TED Talks, or I listened to your podcast, or I was searching through LinkedIn and I came across you. Sometimes you get found that way. Sometimes you get found the other way. But again, it's within context, because let's say the speaking business, for example, not every company is having an event every single day. So they may have an event in October. So in the summertime, they go looking for their speakers. But in November, if you reach out to them, well, they're not responding because they don't have an event coming up. So they don't need you. So again, context matters, folks. So fulfilling a need depends on context, not necessarily the person, because all of us, listen to this, all of our situations change based on what happens. Y'all remember when we had the virus a couple of years ago? I'm not going to use any other word to describe it because TikTok keeps flagging me when I say certain things. But when that virus came around, all of a sudden people needed stuff like what? All of a sudden, everybody wanted to go get a mask because now it was required, right? Then all of a sudden, people were going to stores and like buying all the cleaning products. Now you can't even find, everybody wanted hand sanitizer all of a sudden. Now, all of a sudden, everybody wants to keep their hands clean. What were y'all doing before that? But anyway, everybody wants to keep their hands clean. Now, all of a sudden, everybody wanted gloves. Now, all of a sudden, everybody needed a Zoom account because now there was a need based on the context. So your job is to figure out what is the context of the situation, and the need went up. Now all of a sudden people are buying that stuff. Now everything calmed down. Now I guess nobody's washing their hands anymore because nobody's buying the sanitizer. Moving on to point number 8. Today's topic, once again, is why you can't sell to save your life. Number 8, you don't actually want to make the sale. Ooh. Let's get more direct now. You don't actually want, in all capital letters, want to make the sale. Now, see, after all the tactical and practical stuff, this is the emotional aspect of the game that I want to get into. And what I mean by this is maybe you simply do not feel worthy of making the sale that you're asking for. So, I mean, you're going through the motions and doing all the stuff that you're supposed to do and saying what you're supposed to say and making the offers, but you don't actually feel like you are worthy of what you're asking for. And let's remember, most communication is nonverbal. Whether you think it's 60%, 90%, 80%, whatever the number, I think we all generally agree that most communication is nonverbal, meaning people are deciding about you more based on your energy than they are on your verbiage. So yes, be sharp in your words, be concise, be clear in what you say. That does matter. I'm not saying ignore the words, but people are buying you based on not what you say, but how you say it. Not even the exact words of your offering, but do you come across as someone who actually believes what you're saying? And if people don't believe that you believe, they will not buy. Any of you who has read or listened to anything when it comes to political elections, for example, as we have one coming up in the United States right now, that people do not make their voting decision based on policy. I know everybody talks about policy or facts or lies or any of that nonsense that people tend to send you down rabbit holes arguing about. That's not how people make decisions. People make decisions based on who they like, period. People make decisions based on who they like. When someone comes across as likable and generally believable, regardless of the quote unquote facts, they get a vote. And if you come across as unlikable or they like the other person better, then they vote for the other person. That's how people make their decisions. All this other stuff is window dressing. So if you want to know why a politician won or lost, it's simply because the other person or they were liked more than the other person or the other person was liked more than them. That's simply how it works. And by the way, human beings, all of us make decisions just like this all the time. We make decisions based on who we know, like, and trust, or at least we feel like we know them, we like them, and we have decided that they are trustworthy. That's how we make our decisions, period. All the other stuff, again, is just details that people use to submit their articles and make content and fill out their podcasts and all that stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, but is that the real reason that people make decisions? No. Human beings make decisions based on emotion, and we come up with a whole bunch of logical stuff that sounds good, that makes us sound smart and intelligent for why we made a decision. Nobody makes decisions based on logic, reason, or rational thinking. Nobody. All we do is make a decision emotionally, and then we come up with a whole bunch of logic, reason, and rational thinking that makes it sound like we're really smart when, like, oh, yeah, I made my decision based on all this analysis. Bullshit. No, you didn't. You made the decision based on energy. And here's the point. People make decisions to buy from you or not buy from you based on your energy. Ladies out there can verify this. I've heard men say it. I've heard women say it. People who are dating coaches, etc., say this, that a woman knows within the first 10 minutes of an interaction if she is interested in you or not, and how far this date is going to go. And if you're going to get invited into the house at the end of the night, y'all might be on a date for 2 hours, but she decided within the first 10 minutes what was going to happen. Ladies, can any lady verify this? Has nothing to do with specifically what you say or your verbiage or what restaurant y'all went to. Well, the restaurant you went to, she knows in the first 10 minutes. She decided already what it's going to be. Human beings tend to do this. When you're in a sales conversation, the person you're selling to decided already whether it's going to be a yes or a no for the most part at the beginning of the conversation. Now, the conversation might take an hour, but they already decided what it's going to be. They just come up with a logical justification for it, again, as to what makes sense, what doesn't make sense later to, again, make it make sense to them rationally. This is what human beings do all the time. So the point being here, folks, if you don't believe in yourself and you don't truly want the sale, the other person you're dealing with, if they're paying attention, they're going to read that energy off of you, and they will come up with any reason or no reason at all to not buy from you, because you are giving off the vibes that you are not trustworthy, you are not willing, you are not worthy of the sale, and you simply don't believe. And if you don't believe, they don't believe. Remember what sales is, folks. It's a transfer of emotion. It's a transfer of energy. That's what sales is. It's a transfer of energy. To sell anything, all you got to do is three things. Number one, you must present whatever it is you're offering. Number two, you must transfer the energy, i.e. how you feel about the product, to the person you're trying to sell to. You got to get them to feel about it, how you feel about it. And then number three, you ask for the money. That's it. Present, share, ask for the money. PSA. All right, public service announcement. So you want to remember it that way. PSA, present, share, ask. And if you do these three things, you'll make a sale. The issue is that second one, that share. When you share your energy about a product or service and you don't believe, well, guess what? They're not going to believe, because you just transferred that energy right to them. You transfer your lack of confidence to them, and they're not going to have confidence, and they're not going to buy from you, even if everything else works out, even if everything else is perfect. So you got to check your own energy. That's why I told you earlier, number one sale that you make, most important sale you make every single day, folks, is a sale you make to yourself. Point number 9. And I'm answering all questions and comments at the end, by the way. I see them coming through while I'm talking. Number 9, I got 13 I'm getting through here today, so I'm going to go quickly here. Number 9, you don't believe you're worth the price that you're asking. So that one I just kind of went over. So this is the self-judgment, okay? So you must believe that whatever you're asking for, you are worthy of, that your product is worth the price, that you will stand behind it, and that someone is making a great decision to buy from you, okay? Yes, the words matter. Yes, have a sales script. Yes, have your process. Know what you need to say and go over objection handling and all of that stuff they teach you in sales courses. All that stuff does matter, because you are going to need to have a script. You need to have a process. You need to say the right things. You need to explain yourself clearly. And sometimes people are going to throw objections and complaints at you. You need to be able to handle them, because if you don't handle them, you're not going to make a sale. However, people are ultimately buying your confidence. Now, how do these two things work together? Let me explain that. You see, discipline creates confidence. If you want to be more confident in the way you put yourself out there, folks, you need to step your discipline up. Now, what does this have to do with selling? In sales, and I talk to a lot of salespeople, I talk to sales organizations. I do most of the time when I'm doing speaking, I'm talking to people who are in sales. Sales organizations understand, any of you who's ever worked in one, you understand this very well. They do a whole lot of training on all this stuff we talked about. How do you present the product? All right, what's your sales process? How do you ask the questions? How do you answer questions? How do you handle objections? What do you do when they say it costs too much? What do you do when they say I got to talk to my spouse? What do you do when they say I got to run this by my CFO? What do you do? What do you do when they say I got to think about it? Like, all of those things you prepare for ahead of time, right? What is preparation? Preparation is a form of discipline. All right, the same way that a professional athlete has practice every day before the game, that is the preparation. The preparation is the discipline. Now, what does this have to do with confidence? The more preparation you do, i.e. the more discipline you enact, the more confident you will be when it's time to actually do the thing. This is why, for example, a professional speaker is a good example. Olympic athletes, think about the Olympics. You train for 4 years of preparation, 4 years of discipline just to get one chance to go out there and perform. This is why Olympic athletes tend to be pretty confident when it's time for the competition, because they just spent 4 years getting ready. They spent 4 years doing their homework. It's the same thing for you as a salesperson. The more time you spend role playing and practicing and handling objections and going over your sales process and knowing what you're going to say and following your script, all of that is preparation, discipline that leads to confidence. So when it's time for you to actually sit down with a prospect or give your sales presentation, your confidence level is so high that when you transfer that energy to the prospect, they are willing to buy because their confidence matches your confidence. Now, where'd they get their confidence from? They didn't do the work. You did. They get their confidence from you. Remember, people pick up on your energy more than they pay attention to your verbiage. So the work that you do in the dark, as they say, will come out in the light. It may not be, again, most of the time, people are not going to be able to articulate, hey, I'm buying from you because you're very confident. Nobody has ever said that to me ever. And I've done a lot of sales. But does that play a big role in whether I make the sale or not? Absolutely. So people are, again, they come up with logical justifications for the sale, and you need to help them with that. And we'll talk about that maybe at a later date. But the energy is what they're really buying. Moving on to point number 10. We're talking here today about why you cannot sell to save your life. Again, I got 13 of these. Number 10, lack of persistence when the first try doesn't work. Any of you who's in sales, you know this. The 410 is in the follow-up. Not everybody's going to buy from you the first time that you present your product or service or offer. Sometimes people go on the internet, see something that they like, see something that they want to buy. Either they're in position to buy it, they're not ready to buy it, they don't have the money yet, whatever. And they say, all right, I'm going to buy that, but I'm not going to buy it today. All right, how many of you has ever done that? You saw something, you know you're going to buy it, but you just didn't buy it the first time you saw it. And then you came back later and you did indeed buy it. So, salesperson, your job is to follow up with your prospects. Most of the money in sales is made in the follow-up, not in the first exchange. Many people do not buy things the first time they see them, but they will buy it if you keep reminding them. For example, I have an iPhone. My current iPhone is an iPhone 13. So I'm like 3 iPhones behind. I know I'm going to buy another iPhone. I don't know which one I'm going to get. Maybe by the time I actually buy it, it'll be on the 17. Probably not. I'll probably get the 16 or the 15, whatever it is that I'm going to get. The point being, I know that I'm going to buy it. I just haven't done it yet. And Apple's job is to keep following up with me and reminding me that I need to get that phone because it's out. Now, why was a company like Apple, as big as they are, as much money as they have, as much customers as they have, as many iPhones as I've had, why do they need to follow up? And that's a good question. The reason is that even a company like Apple, if they stop following up and stop reminding you to buy from them, you will stop buying from them. If Apple stopped all their advertising, they would lose money. Even though you have all these Apple products, and many of you may think to yourself, well, I'm always going to buy from Apple, whether they advertise or not. I doubt it. I don't think so. I'm going to challenge you on that. Right across the street from where I live, there's a big billboard. It's probably like 75 feet wide and 50 feet high. And Apple has had that billboard for a long time. I was looking on Google Maps, and they have this thing like where you can look at previous versions of what the street looked like when you're on the street view. And I was looking for something else, but I saw that billboard from like 2008. Right. So right now that billboard is advertising the iPhone 16. That's the newest iPhone, right? iPhone 16. I was looking at that same street from 2008 and I saw the billboard. You know what phone they were advertising then? The iPhone 5C in 2008. The point is, here's why I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that because iPhone has been advertising their phones for, that was, what was that, 15, 16 years ago. They were still advertising the phone, even though they've been the biggest dominant company when it comes to smartphones for all that time. They still pay money because you know billboards are not free. All right, they still spend 5 figures a month on just that billboard. That's not counting the billboard in your city, his city, her city, TV, the internet, mail that they send. They not counting all the other money they spend. Apple spends $1 million a day easy marketing. Nike, $1 million a day. Amazon, $1 million a day. Google, $1 million a day. Advertising and marketing, even though all of y'all know these companies. Why do they spend so much money advertising when they already got all the customers? Because they understand the principle that you must continually follow up with people in order to make sales. So here's one place that you should copy those big companies. Now, you should not copy them on everything that they do, but you should copy them on this one. Continually marketing to your audience, and do not think just because somebody didn't buy from you on Monday that they will not buy from you on Tuesday. You must follow up. And many salespeople are so timid in following up that you miss out on sales because you simply are not willing to follow up with people. And you also got to be creative in your follow-up. So you're not saying the same thing over and over again. Hey, just following up. You got to come up with some material. And by the way, in Work on Your Game University, we help people with all of this. So these are not unsolvable problems. They already been solved. Moving on, number 11. All right, just 3 more left. We're talking here today about why you suck at selling, why you cannot sell to save your life. Number 11, you hope or think you won't have to sell because your work is just that great on its own merits. Probably not. Some of you don't want to sell. You rather the sales just come to you. People just come to you ready to buy, and you don't have to do any sales work because your product is just so good that they'll just understand it and buy it. Probably not. Probably not. Again, what did I just tell you? Amazon, Nike, Google, Apple. These are the biggest companies out there. These might be the biggest when it comes to consumer goods, maybe the biggest companies out there in America right now today. Walmart, I guess you throw in that conversation. All these companies advertise. They advertise even though you've already given them a whole bunch of money. You already give them a whole bunch of money and they still advertise. Why? Because they understand that their products are not that good that you're just going to buy just without them helping you out. They give you a little nudge. Let me remind you to go buy the new iPhone. Let me remind you to go to Amazon and buy something. Let me remind you to come back to Walmart and look at our everyday low prices. All right, they remind you. All right, Nike, let me remind you that you should get these sneakers. All right, they keep advertising. Y'all notice this, right? So none of you is just that good. None of your products are just that amazing that people are going to buy just because you're standing there. All right, it doesn't work like that. Only business in which that works, where you could just stand there and you don't have to advertise, is a drug dealer. All right, if you stand on the corner dealing drugs, you don't have to do anything. The drug fiends, the addicts, they'll just come find you. But if you're not a drug dealer, you got to actually let people know that you have something that's worth it, and you got to keep reminding them that it's worth it. I knew this personal trainer who lived in South Beach several years ago, and she wanted to get more clients. She was telling me how she was having issues. She didn't have too many steady clients. I said, why don't you just go around to all the apartment buildings and condos in town, in South Beach, and just put a little flyer up or a billboard with a picture of yourself and your phone number, and just have people know how they can rip the little piece off at the bottom, and then they can just call your number, and then you'll probably get some clients just off that alone. And she said, yeah, I get it, but I don't like that. I don't want to feel like I'm selling people. I don't want to feel like I'm being a salesperson. I'd rather my clients just come to me and become my clients. And I said, yeah, of course, we all would. I would love if people just came to me. I would love if I could just sit here and just wait for my email inbox to light up or my phone to ring. And somebody said, Dre, I heard you got this product or service for sale. I want to buy it from you. Just send me the link and I'll give you the money. I wish business worked like that. I have a whole different business model if that's the way it worked. That's not the way it works, folks. You got to let people know that you exist. And then you got to remind them, and then you got to tell them again. Again, Apple, Nike, Amazon, Google, Walmart. Do they just sit there and do nothing and let you come buy from them? No, they advertise. You might not notice it because you're so used to it that you don't even, your mind just deletes it. Apple advertises. They advertise a lot. Nike advertises a lot. Amazon, a lot. Walmart, a lot. They send you mail. Walmart will send physical mail to your mailbox reminding you to come buy stuff. Pay attention. If you start paying attention, you'll notice these things. These companies are the biggest out there. They spend all this money advertising and marketing and reminding you to buy from them, even though they're already bigger than everybody else. And you think you're just going to sit there and the customer's just going to come to you? Who are you again? Compared to these companies? Again, this is something that you should borrow from them. Don't do everything they do because you don't have the economies of scale that they have. But this is one thing you should borrow because this is a principle of sales that you must remind your customers that you exist. Number 12, and I'm gonna take questions at the end, by the way, 2 more points. Number 12, you haven't mastered the 4 C's of sales. Here are the 4 C's of sales. And one day I might do just a training just on this alone, but I'm just going to touch on them right now. Certainty, clarity, confidence, and courage. These are 4 things you need to make sales. You need certainty, meaning you have sold yourself on yourself and your product. You sold yourself on your product. Number 2, clarity. You clearly understand what your product is, what it does, and you can communicate it to other people. Number 3, confidence. We just talked about that. You believe in yourself, you believe in what you're offering, and you communicate confidence even without saying it out of your mouth. And number 4, courage. All right, you got to have balls to be a salesperson. You want to be a good salesperson, you got to have some balls. Now, if you have no balls, you can be an average salesperson or maybe even mediocre, but you're not going to be a great salesperson unless you have some balls. And I got a whole training on having balls too. We got trainings on everything. So anything you hear me say here, I can go deeper. I'm going an hour on damn near everything you heard me say here today. So I'm just touching on some of these just to let you know. And inside of our university, we train people on everything you hear me talking about here today. Nothing is missed. All right. So the 4 C's, let me tell you again: certainty, clarity, confidence, and courage. All right. You need all 4 of these if you want to be a good salesperson. If you have not mastered even one of them, it is costing you money right now as we speak. And the last one, number 13. We're talking why you cannot sell to save your life. I'm going to recap these after this, and then I'm going to take questions. So if you got a question or comment, put it in the comment section. Number 13, you are a mental socialist. The mental socialist. Let me tell you what that means. Definition of socialism is a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Now, what exactly do I mean by saying that you're a mental socialist? What I mean is that you want, expect, or think that all rewards should be equally distributed just because you think everybody should end up with an equal outcome. No, this will not happen. It cannot happen. It cannot be manufactured. There is no law or regulations or executive orders or bills passed through Congress that will ever make this occur. We will never be equal. Now, we are created equal, as they say in whatever religious text that you follow, but we do not remain equal. Let me ask all of you a question. How many of you know some people who you grew up with as a kid, who y'all came from the same neighborhood, similar background, similar socioeconomic status, maybe even went to some of the same schools, but y'all went on divergent paths, and look where you are now, look where they are now, and it's completely different. How many of you can say that that has occurred with at least one person you grew up with? I would bet that every single one of you can say that. You could probably raise both hands and you can name 10 people you grew up with who you are in a completely different place now than they are, even though y'all came from very similar backgrounds generally. Why is this? Because human beings get to make decisions. Therefore, we will never all be equal ever again. Maybe we're born, maybe when we're all babies and you're first born that first day, we're all pretty much the same. But immediately things start changing because we get to make decisions. We get to make choices. We get to do what we want to do. All right. So the point here is many of you are not making sales because you think everybody should end up the same way. No, we're not going to end up the same way. All right. And you got to earn what you want. If you wants to earn more, you got to figure out what adjustments do I need to make to step up my production and my outcomes. Rewards are not evenly distributed. They never will be. And that doesn't mean there's not enough to go around. Anybody who wants it can get it. But you got to be willing to take the steps necessary to go there. And guess what? Not everybody's willing to take those steps. And that's completely okay. That's not your business. It's not your business what somebody else wants to do. Your business is what you want to do. So if you want more returns, you got to figure out a way to get more value out there into the world. That's simply how it works. And I have a whole program called Sell Yourself in our university. I got a book called The Seller's Mindset that goes over all of this stuff. But let me recap my points here, and then I'll take questions. So I'm going to recap really quickly. 13 points that I went through. Then I'm going to take questions. If you got a question or comment, post it in the comments right now. I'm going to get to it in 1 second. So we're talking why you can't sell to save your life. Number 1, you don't know what you're offering. Number 2, you're selling to the wrong people who are not your buyers. Number 3, you're looking at the wrong data, such as social media followers. Number 4, failure to communicate what you are offering. People don't know, they won't buy. Number 5, you are being too timid and talking yourself up. If you don't believe you, they won't believe you. Number 6, you sound just like everybody else. You don't want to be a commodity, then you become Walmart. Number 7, your offer does not fulfill a need. Needs are context-based, meaning I might not need it today, but I need it tomorrow. Number 8, you don't actually want to make the sale. Some of you simply just don't believe in yourself enough that you want to make the sale, and you're communicating that lack of confidence to your prospects. Number 9, you don't believe you're worth the price that you're asking. Goes right along with point number 8. Do you believe you are worth what the number that you're asking for? Because if you don't believe it, they won't believe it. Number 10, Lack of persistence when the first try doesn't work. Remember that in sales, the fortune is in the follow-up. You are not following up with your customers or your prospects. They will not buy. Most people do not buy the first time they hear about something. Number 11, you hope or think that you won't have to sell because your work is just that good. Again, look at the biggest companies out there. Do they think that way? No, you should probably follow their lead on that. Number 12, you haven't mastered the 4 C's of selling: certainty, clarity, confidence, and courage. Number 13, you're a mental socialist. You're expecting everything's going to be equal amongst everybody. Get out of that dream world. That is not the way the world works. We are unequal, and we will always be unequal because not everybody makes the same decisions. Not everyone has the same ambitions, goals, and desires. All that said, workonyourgameuniversity.com. If you'd like to work with me directly, have me as your direct coach. That's where it happens. That link is in my bio on whatever platform you're watching me on right now. Now I'm going to address comments. If you have any, go ahead and post them right now. Let's see what we got. Let's go over to TikTok, and then we'll go to Instagram. I think I saw the majority of commentary was looking like it was on TikTok. So actually, let me do Instagram first, since I think most comments were on TikTok. If you got a question or comment on TikTok, post it right now. I'm going to address it in 1 second. Good morning. No loose ends over there on Instagram. Prince Dread, what's going on? Good morning. Oops. TikTok gave me a warning. So whenever I do they gave me a time warning. So whenever I get to an hour, TikTok puts up a little thing that makes me like a little, what do they call it? Like a little captcha. So I guess they make me prove that I'm actually doing this live stream, or they cut my live stream off. So let me just make sure we got everything. If we got everything on Instagram, let me see what we got going on TikTok. TikTok, what's going on? I'm going through this right now. Black Guy Magic says, what's the title of the book behind you? Well, several books behind me. So we got Super You. That's my book on confidence. Dre Philosophy Volume 0. That is my book where I just took a bunch of stuff that I wrote and put it all in one book. So it basically codifies my philosophy. That book is 800 pages long, by the way. This one right here, Dre Philosophy Volume 0. So y'all see this? Ain't no pictures in this book. You'll see those words on every page. All right, that's Dre Philosophy Volume 0. All right, and I'm about to put out Volume 1. All right, that's Volume 0. I didn't even get to Volume 1 yet. Then we got the Mirror of Motivation. You'll see this empty space behind me. We got to refill our inventory. So you see these shelves are pretty much empty because I ship these books out a lot. So when we sell them, we run out of books. Mirror of Motivation. That's my self-guidance, self-discipline, work on your game. Self-explanatory. This is the Mandarin version of Work on Your Game. So we licensed this book to get published in China. So that's this same book, but in Chinese or Mandarin. Third Day, that's my book on how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. The Overseas Basketball Blueprint, self-explanatory. You want to play basketball overseas. That's that book. Buy a Game. This is actually my first book. This is where only book of mine that I'm telling a story. That's just my story of playing basketball when I first came up. Entrepreneur Workbook. I didn't even put this book out yet. You can't even buy this book yet, but it is printed, as you can see. Bulletproof Bulletin. That's my monthly newsletter that I send out to members of my university. So that's some of the books behind me, but I got probably 20 something more that I didn't tell you. Let's see what else we got on TikTok. I'm going through TikTok comments right now, by the way. We just talked about, for those who came in the middle of this, we were talking about why you can't sell to save your life. Cole said, I got your Work on Your Game emails since 2018. That's what's up. Keep getting them. We got more coming. We're actually, I'm writing all the time. So we got so many articles coming out that we're going to give you plenty of reading material, Cole. So stay tuned. And we're revamping our system so we can make it more streamlined. That's on the back end, but you'll still be getting those. Yellow Man Reed, appreciate you, sir. Yellow Man Reed comes through consistently and gets that #1 gifter badge. So appreciate you if you're still in here. Let's see. Colin Waika said, Dre all day. Yes, this is from my YouTube videos back in the day. Yes, sir. Kelvin said, I send out monthly postcards to my clients and prospective clients. At what point do I make the call? Well, that would require, Kelvin, you would have to go through your process and find out when people are most in need, at what point do they get hot. So it really require just a systematic looking into your system and your process of when people are buying or when they're most in need. That's how you would decide that. But it's not just a black and white, me just throwing out a time period, because it has to be relative to what works for you, what's been working. That's how you'll figure that out. Colin said, I used to watch your one-on-one videos. Oh, yeah, I remember those. 2 Altoona alums. Oh, Colin, you went to Altoona? All right, shout out to Altoona, PA. K Ford, what's going on? Real Pressure J. Is there any advice for someone who doesn't really have the money to start up anything? What do you need money for? You can start up something on the internet these days. You don't need money to start a business. So that's my advice. You don't need money to start a business. You can start a business from the internet with no money whatsoever. It's Tunk says, used to hoop. Yes, I used to hoop. It is me. Young Zuko said, tips for longevity in sales and keeping stress low. Well, if you want to be a high level salesperson, your stress level is not going to be low. Your stress level will be high, but you can reframe stress as a positive thing. So don't try to run away from stress, because the package deal of stress is high performance. High performers are usually stressed, because to keep performing at a high level, you got to put pressure on yourself, and pressure and stress usually come together, and pressure and stress are usually accompanied by high level performance. So, and there's also pressure and stress when you're a low level performer. I would suggest that you reframe stress as a positive thing. It's called eustress, EUSTRESS. It's a real thing. Look it up in the dictionary. It's all about the type of stress that you look forward to because you know it's going to make you better. For example, lifting weights is eustress. You know it's going to be hard, but you do it anyway because you know it's going to help. Let's see. And again, I'm looking through TikTok. Victoria 8 says, you are dropping great gems. Thank you. Someone said, that's crazy. Millionaires are in a cheaper gym, etc. I didn't say millionaires. I said higher level people. So see, you're responding to the wrong thing. Let's see. Someone said, only matters if you are as morally bankrupt as them. Capitalism is not going to save. Well, if you think that, you are entitled to your own position. Latonia, you are what you attract. That's correct. Exactly. That's right. Latonia, glad you got some value out of this. Piri Sket says, I remember your basketball drill videos. That's what's up. They're still out there. They're still on YouTube. You look them up. They're still there. Kept sees intimidate, overwhelm, and close. I never heard it framed that way, but I think people do use that. It sounds like Wolf of Wall Street type of angle. Leosha, what's going on? Said, well, tell me often. All right, did I call you out on something? Well, I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you got the message. I'm glad you absorbed it. Money Man Sells. I used to train with your basketball vids. That's what's up. You still can. They still out there. Shout out to everybody who used to watch the basketball vids back in the day. Said you was goated. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Someone said, what's the con? Jason said, is a con. What's the con? Please tell me what it is. Zai said, I have 4 pending journals. How do you know if it's the right thing to do? What does that even mean? I don't understand your question. Amir Perez says, when do you schedule your days? Either at the end of the previous day or at the beginning of the next day. And there are certain things I know I'm going to do all the time, such as doing this live stream. And by the way, I'll do these lives every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. So I just put that in the schedule and it's there every day. So I don't have to every day, like on Monday, I don't have to say, hey, I'm going to do a live stream at 8 o'clock. I already know I'm going to do it and it's already in my calendar. Y'all want to see what my calendar looks like? I'll show you what my calendar looks like. So my calendar for today, I got a bunch of things I do all the time. That's the stuff you see in blue. And then all the things that are different, those are different colors. So the stuff I do all the time that I know I got to do every day, those are in blue. And then all the different colors you see, those are things that I know I'm going to do different days. I'm just scrolling through the days. That's what my calendar looks like. Point being that everything is literally scheduled. So I know I'm just looking at my schedule just to see what I'm doing today. I briefly look at it in the morning, so I know I got a glimpse of what I'm doing. Go Yo Gots, good morning to you. Sway said, my uncle CJ used to train with you at JMP. CJ? I know more than one CJ. Who's CJ? Tell me what other names is he known by? Because if at JMP, I would usually be the only one in there. But I do know a lot of ball players. So shout out to your uncle, whoever that is you're referring to. Goyo said, what's the number one thing you need as a military leader, or are there multiple things? Well, I don't have experience in the military, so you're asking the wrong person. But a leader needs to be able to clearly communicate confidence that they believe in themselves in any space, not necessarily military. Again, I wasn't in the military, so I'm not qualified to answer that question. Here to Save says, is that a calendar app? Yes, Google Calendar, which is free. Anybody can use it. Mary said, I use Notion Calendar, Google Calendar. Yeah, so calendars are generally free. Jose Carlos. I'm not sure I know him by that name, but I probably did. You're probably right. I don't think you're lying. But yeah, shout out to Jose Carlos. Tell him I said what's up. Zai says, a writer, I've had people tell me I need somebody to proofread my journals first. Why is that? Well, what they said. What you're asking me here is something that basketball players used to ask me. They would come to me and they would say, well, my coach said this. And then they would ask me, why did the coach say it? I said, well, did you ask the coach why they said it? I mean, they were standing right there in front of you. So, Zai, what I would say back to you is whoever told you that, you need to ask them why they said it. What I would say, I'll give you my answer, but I'm going to refer you back to the person who gave you the information. You should ask them if you're unclear, is because you might not notice some of your own errors in your writing. That's the reason why we have proofreading, so somebody else can see what you might have missed. Victoria says, how do you deal with fluctuation of energy levels when everything is scheduled? Well, that's a great question. I got a whole training on that as well. I got trainings on everything, by the way, folks. Anything you hear me addressing here, I got deeper trainings on all of this stuff, but I'll be talking for hours if I answered all of these in too much depth. Is you can prepare to have your energy at the right level. So when it comes to energy, what are you putting in your body? How are you using your body? How much sleep are you getting? Are you mentally locked in on for the right reasons? Do you have a good reason to want to do what you want to do over the course of a day? All of those contribute to your energy levels, Victoria. That's my answer to that question. But again, I could do a whole hour on just that question alone. It's a good question. Here to serve. What's going on? Someone said, they said I need a license before doing anything. So I took my book up. You don't need a license to write a book. Or is that LLC? No, you don't need an LLC to write a book. So whoever told you that was lying. I have a whole training on how to put a book out as well. What you need to do before the book, during the book, and after the book. I have a whole training on that. It's actually a course. I did like a 4-hour training on it, and you can get that. If you send a DM, I have my assistant watch my DM. She'll send you a link where you can get access to that if you're interested. And of course, that's part of our university as well. Everything's in the university, but we have individual stuff you can get as well. Goyo said, would you say that being a leader is multiple things, not one thing is more important than the other? Well, it depends. Depends on who you're leading, why you're leading them. And good thing about being a leader is that you get to decide how you want to lead. So it's not like a black and white like document that if you're a leader, you got to do ABC. It's not technically not how it works. So it's based on the person individually. They get to choose how they want to lead. And then there are some principles of leadership. Absolutely, there are principles. I have trainings on that as well. I'm going to say that every time. Every question any of y'all ask me, I got trainings on all this stuff. Victoria, I appreciate the rose. So again, let me tell you all, again, I got to get off of here soon because I got stuff to do. So workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to work with me directly. That's where it happens. If you like what you heard here, I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. At least on business days, we do these Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you get to work with me directly. This training right here, if you like this will be in the back end of our university after it comes off of these platforms, whichever one you are watching me on. And y'all know how to find me. Y'all right here on this app. So send me a DM if you got a question or anything deeper you want to get into. Either I or someone on my team will see the message and they'll get back to you. Everybody have a great day, great weekend. Work on your game. We out here.